Tantor Audio, a division of Recorded Books, presents Rebuilding, When Your Relationship Ends, by Bruce Fisher, EDD, and Robert Alberti, PhD. Narrated by Joel Richards. Foreword. Virginia M. Satir, MSW. Divorce is a metaphorical surgery that affects all areas of life of the individual. I have often said that the roots of divorce are in the circumstances and hopes at the time of marriage. Many people marry with the idea that life is going to be better. Perhaps only a fool would enter into marriage, thinking that would not be the case. The depth of disappointment at the time of divorce will depend upon how much more one wants to get out of life, or how much more one feels it necessary to add someone to one's life to make life worthwhile. For many people, divorce is a broken experience, and before they can go on with their lives, they need to be able to pick up the pieces. This period often includes deep emotional feelings of despair, disappointment, revenge, retaliation, hopelessness, and helplessness. People need to develop a whole new orientation to the life that will come, and they need time to mourn what was hoped and to realize that the hope will not manifest itself. Many books on divorce talk only about the problems. Of course, there are the injury to the ego, diminished feeling of self-worth, constant nagging questions about what went wrong, and many fears about the future. Dr. Fisher has given us a very practical and useful framework within which to examine the grief period, to take a look at where one is, and to determine directions for the future. He offers step-by-step guides to getting oneself in a position to enjoy the life that comes after the divorce. He presents it as a period in which one can learn from the past, get to know oneself better, and also develop new parts of the self that were previously unknown. An apt analogy would be that of the convalescence which occurs after any kind of surgery. The emotional levels one needs to work through during and following divorce are very much parallel to the stages one goes through at the time of death. At first, there is a denial of the events that have taken place and a consequent feeling of wanting to isolate oneself from the whole situation. Then anger, wherein one blames someone else for one's predicament. The third level is bargaining, a kind of situation in which one wants to look at the ledger to see that things are equal. This is often manifest in the custody of children and property settlements at the time of divorce. Then comes a period of depression, which is where much self-hatred, self-blame, and feelings of failure are present. Finally, after all of this, one comes to acceptance of the situation and acceptance of the self. Out of this comes hope for what can happen. I believe Bruce Fisher's book makes it possible for people to work through these various levels, stage by stage. It is important to give this rebuilding period the time it needs to awaken parts of the self that have been paralyzed, repressed, or unknown. Let each self, in this case the divorced person, come into the next part of life with hope rather than failure. Menlo Park, California, September 1980. Editor's note: Virginia Satir, 1916 to 1988, was one of the most loved and highly respected contributors to the field of marriage and family therapy. She was recognized as a founder of family systems theory. Her many books, including her bestseller People Making, were influential in establishing the framework for family therapy, and they constitute a major component of the foundation of the profession as it is currently practiced. Ms. Satir wrote this foreword for the first edition of Rebuilding. Introduction to the fourth edition. Robert E. Alberti, Ph.D. As you begin to listen to this book, you're probably smarting from the recent end of a love affair. Perhaps you were married for many years, or you may have been in a committed relationship without the endorsement of church or state. You may have children, or not. You may have initiated the breakup, or you may have received a terse text message. Your ex-partner may have been a wonderful person, or a jerk. Whatever your own story, right now, it hurts like hell. We know how overwhelming it seems, but you can work your way through the difficult and painful process of recovering from the loss of a love relationship. It's not easy, and it won't happen overnight, but you can do it. Rebuilding, when your relationship ends, will show you how, with a proven 19-step process that has helped more than 1 million readers to recover and rebuild their lives after enduring the pain of a divorce, breakup, or loss of a love partner. Again and again, we've heard from divorced men and women who have read and worked their way through this process that are profoundly grateful to their friends who said, "You're going through a divorce? You have to read Rebuilding." It will take you a while. Sure, you can listen to this book in a few hours, but the process of divorce recovery is another matter altogether. Use this book well, perhaps for a year or more, whatever it takes. You'll gain a few steps forward, then fall back a step. Most people make faster progress when they take part in a divorce recovery seminar based on the book, the Rebuilding Divorce Recovery Seminars. But whatever else you do, allow yourself the time it will require to work through what Bruce Fisher liked to call the divorce process. His research showed that it can take 2 years or more. Wait, what? 2 years? Not what you wanted to hear, huh? Truth is, in the real world, you won't go from married person to divorced person to fulfilled independent person in a few weeks or even a few months. It will take some time. It's like climbing a mountain. As you begin your own journey of rebuilding, you'll note right away that's the way we have described the process, like climbing a mountain. Probably not surprising since Bruce spent most of his adult life in Boulder, Colorado, at the foot of the Rockies. It's an apt metaphor. The process can seem slow and difficult, and you'll likely find there are detours along the way. Like a mountain trail, it won't be a straight path to the top. The 19 steps are presented here in the order that they most often, though not always, occur in people's lives. You'll probably experience setbacks, switchbacks, and occasional side trips that take you off the path. Don't let that stop you. Each of the steps contains valuable life lessons that are well worth working through. Allow yourself as much time as you need to understand your pain and rebuild your capacity to move on. You've probably already discovered that there are tons of books out there about how to deal with divorce. Most have to do with legal issues, finances, parenting and custody, finding a new love. Rebuilding takes a different approach. It's our goal to help you deal with the almost inevitable emotional issues you will confront as you put your life back together after this major disruption. The book starts out with an overview of the process, followed by guidance for the early months, when you'll likely confront significant levels of depression, anger, and loneliness, the darkness before the dawn. As time goes by, we'll help you to let go of the baggage you've been carrying from the past. As you start to recognize your own personal strengths and worth, you can once again risk trusting others, and you'll open yourself to new relationships. Eventually, if you keep climbing, you'll discover a life of purpose and freedom. The process probably won't be smooth, but at each point along the way, this understanding trail guide will be at hand when you need support. If you're listening to Rebuilding as you take part in a Fisher Divorce Seminar, you'll find the class will set the schedule for you, and you'll be learning a great deal from discussions with other group members. If you're listening to the book on your own, you can set your own pace and tailor your focus to what's happening in your life at the moment. Either way, you're likely to find yourself hearing some material that is important to you as you make your way up the mountain. How this book came to be. Bruce Fisher was an Iowa farm boy, his words, who, after college, became a probation officer working with teen offenders. That experience led him to graduate school to learn more about the emotional forces that impact people's lives. Then, a divorce changed the focus of his studies, and his career. He began to learn more about how people deal with divorce, and that work led to his development of a scale, a test of sorts, to examine the process. His research with that first version of his Fisher Divorce Adjustment Scale uncovered 15, later 19, key steps that occur with remarkable consistency, though not always in sequence, in the lives of people who are going through the emotional pain that typically accompanies a divorce. You can use an online version of the Fisher Divorce Adjustment Scale at http://www.rebuilding.org/assessment. As Bruce extended his model to a seminar, guiding others through the divorce recovery process, he began to put his ideas and experience into book form. His early self-published volume, When Your Relationship Ends, found its way to me in 1980, in my capacity as editor and publisher at Impact Publishers, and a licensed therapist myself. Bruce and I worked together for a year to create a trade edition of the book, which Impact released in 1981 as the first edition of Rebuilding When Your Relationship Ends. Bruce had by then begun training others in how to use the model and conduct the seminar, and his 10-week program was springing up all over the United States and abroad. The hundreds of facilitators Bruce prepared during his 3-decade career provided him with invaluable evidence about how well the process was working for the members of their groups. Those results, the experiences of tens of thousands of seminar participants, provided the evidence base for continuing improvement of the model and the book. By the time of Bruce's untimely death from cancer in 1998, his rebuilding model had expanded from 15 to 19 steps, progressed through 3 editions of the book with nearly 1 million copies in print and translations in many languages, and spawned hundreds of seminars using his program in community centers, churches, clinics, therapists' offices, and private homes around the world. And it's not only the personal experience of readers and seminar participants who affirm the value of this process in their lives. Dozens of research studies have been conducted by professors, graduate students, and therapists, most of them published in peer-reviewed professional journals. These studies show that most participants in seminars following the rebuilding model make significant gains in self-respect, acceptance of the divorce, hope for the future, letting go of the ended relationship, acceptance of anger, and building a new social network. Thus, rebuilding is a well-developed, evidence-based, and proven approach, not just another pop psychology book. Relationships, they are a-changin'. We know that relationships these days are all over the map. Traditional marriage has waned a bit in popularity. Fewer young people are marrying, and those who do are waiting longer. Most divorced people marry again, but second marriages are not lasting any longer than the first. Ethnic and religious boundaries are frequently crossed as couples seek happiness that transcends those traditional barriers. Ex-priests are marrying. Single is no longer a pejorative in middle age. Trophy husbands are becoming as common as trophy wives, since age difference is not the barrier it once was. Not much is known about divorce among same-gender couples, since it was only in 2015 that the U.S. Supreme Court brought same-gender marriage into the law of the land. Although still considered sinful by some, these unions are becoming commonplace, and everyone will have to get used to this reality. While rebuilding does not explicitly address same-gender divorce, we know that LGBTQ partnerships do break up. Available statistics show the numbers to be similar to those for hetero couples, and we believe the rebuilding process to be essentially the same. When history gives us the benefit of hindsight based on experience with same-gender breakups, we may find notable differences. Until then, we consider this work to be a valuable resource for those of any sexual orientation or gender identity who are experiencing the pain of the end of their relationship. All of us are learning that our similarities are hugely greater than our differences. Many of the elements of the rebuilding process also address the pain of loss from the death of a partner. While this book does not deal with that personal crisis in depth, we have long recognized that most of the rebuilding blocks do appear in the path widows and widowers must travel. A special section for this group was developed for and by widowed participants in the seminar, and that material has been added to this edition, ahead in Appendix D. We offer heartfelt sympathy and trust that you may find some comfort in these pages as you put your own life back together. We've tried to make rebuilding as inclusive as we could, but we ask your indulgence if the book doesn't give full recognition to the form your love relationship may have taken. You'll find the process works anyway. A few words about words. Throughout the book, you'll find frequent references to the group program for divorce recovery that Bruce created. We've tried to label it consistently as the Fisher Divorce Seminar, but you'll find it sometimes called the 10-week class, the Fisher Divorce and Personal Growth Seminar, the Rebuilding Class, the Fisher Seminar, and sometimes simply the class. Different labels, same thing. Help. At times, as you make your way, you may feel you need extra help. We encourage you to seek out a licensed professional therapist if you find yourself dealing with high levels of anxiety, depression, or anger. Yes, you'll ultimately have to work through the process on your own, but just as with any challenging project, you'll do the best job by using the right tools to help you do the work. Professional support can be one of your most valuable tools if you find yourself stuck. To get started, however, all you need is available to you right here. I urge you to listen to each chapter, even if it doesn't appear at first to apply to you. Keep a personal journal of your progress. Answer the "How are you doing?" questions at the end of the chapters. Be honest with yourself. Avoid jumping into a new relationship early in your process. Find a Fisher Divorce Seminar if you can. See http://www.rebuilding.org. Sign up and take an active part. And, once again, give yourself all the time you need. Prepare yourself for a journey. Pack up your energy, your optimism, your hopes for the future. Discard your excess baggage. Put on a sturdy pair of shoes. Colorado's Rocky Mountains were an important part of Bruce's life. California's Sierra Nevadas have been an important part of mine. And the rebuilding mountain lies ahead for you. Let's get ready to climb together. Chapter 1. The Rebuilding Blocks. You are probably experiencing the painful feelings that come when a love relationship ends. There is a proven 19-step process of adjustment to the loss of a love. This chapter provides an overview and introduction to the rebuilding blocks that form that process. Are you hurting? If you have recently ended a love relationship, you are. Those who appear not to hurt when their love relationships end have either already worked through a lot of hurt or have yet to feel the pain. So go ahead, acknowledge that you're hurt. It's natural, expected, healthy, even okay to hurt. Pain is nature's way of telling us that something in us needs to be healed. So let's get on with the healing. Can we help? We think so. We can share with you some of the learning that takes place in the divorce recovery seminars Bruce Fisher conducted for over 25 years. The growth that takes place in people during a 10-week seminar is remarkable. Maybe by sharing with you some of these ideas and some of the feedback we've received from hundreds of thousands of readers of earlier editions of this book, we can help you learn how to get through the hurt also. There is an adjustment process after a divorce, with a beginning, an end, and specific steps of learning along the way. While you're feeling some of the pain, you're more anxious to learn how to be healed. If you are like most of us, you probably have had some destructive patterns of behavior for years, maybe since your childhood. Change is hard work. While you were in a love relationship, you might have been comfortable enough that you felt no need to change. But now there is that pain. What do you do? Well, you can use the pain as motivation to learn and to grow. It's not easy, but you can. The steps of the adjustment process are arranged into a pyramid of rebuilding blocks to symbolize a mountain. Rebuilding means climbing that mountain, and for most of us, it's a difficult journey. Some people don't have the strength and stamina to make it to the top. They stop off somewhere on the trail. Some of us are seduced into another important love relationship before learning all that we can from the pain. They, too, drop out before reaching the top, and they miss the magnificent view of life that comes from climbing the mountain. Some withdraw into the shelter of a cave in their own little worlds and watch the procession go by, another group that never reaches the top. And, sadly, there are a few who choose self-destruction, jumping off the first cliff that looms along the trail. Let us assure you that the climb is worth it. The rewards at the top make the tough climb worthwhile. How long does it take to climb the mountain? Studies with the Fisher Divorce Adjustment Scale indicate that, on average, it takes about a year to get above the tree line, past the really painful negative stages of the climb, longer to reach the top. Some will make it in less time, others in more. Some research suggests that a few in our climbing party will need as long as 3 to 5 years. Don't let that discourage you. Finishing the climb is what counts, not how long it takes. Just remember that you climb at your own rate, and don't get rattled if some pass you along the way. Like life itself, the process of climbing and growing is the source of your greatest benefits. We've learned a great deal about what you're going through by listening to people in the seminars and by reading hundreds of letters from readers. People sometimes ask, "Were you eavesdropping when my ex and I were talking last week? How did you know what we were saying?" Well, although each of us is an individual with unique experiences, there are similar patterns that all of us go through while ending a love relationship. When we talk about patterns, you will likely find that it will be more or less what you're experiencing. These patterns are similar not only for the ending of a love relationship, but for any ending crisis that comes along in your life. Frank, a seminar participant, reports that he followed the same patterns when he left the priesthood of the Catholic Church. Nancy found the same patterns when she was fired from her job. Betty when she was widowed. Maybe one of the most important personal skills we can develop is how to adjust to a crisis. There will probably be more crises in our lives, and learning to shorten the pain time will be a highly valuable learning experience. In this chapter, we'll briefly describe the trail that we will be taking up the mountain. In the following chapters, we will get on with the emotional learning of actually climbing the mountain. We suggest that you start keeping a journal right now to make the climb more meaningful. After the journey is over, you can reread your journal to gain a better perspective on your changes and growth during the climb. More about journals at the end of this chapter. The Rebuilding Blocks model graphically shows 19 specific feelings and attitudes arranged in the form of a pyramid to symbolize the mountain that must be climbed. The adjustment process can be as difficult a journey as climbing a mountain. At first, the task is overwhelming. Where to start? How do you climb? How about a guide and a map to help us climb this difficult mountain? That's what the rebuilding blocks are, a guide and a map prepared by others who have already traveled the trail. As you climb, you'll discover that tremendous personal growth is possible, despite the emotional trauma you've experienced from the ending of your love relationship. In the first edition of this book, published in 1981, Bruce described just 15 building blocks. His work since then, with thousands of people who've gone through the divorce process, has led to the addition of 4 new blocks and some changes to the original 15. He was grateful to those whose lives touched his, through this book and through the classes. Much has been learned from them, and we'll be sharing their experiences with you ahead. Throughout the book, you will find specific ways of dealing with each rebuilding block to prevent it from becoming a stumbling block. You have probably already stumbled enough. People often report that they can immediately identify their blocks that need work. Others are unable to identify a problem block because they have effectively buried their feelings and attitudes about it. As a result, at some higher point on the climb, they may discover and explore the rebuilding blocks they overlooked at first. Kathy, a volunteer helper in one of the seminars, suddenly recognized one during an evening class. "I've been stuck on the guilt rejection block all along without realizing it." The following week, she reported considerable progress, thanks to identifying the problem. The rest of this chapter presents a pre-journey briefing on the climb, addressing the blocks as we'll encounter them on the trail up the mountain. Beginning at the bottom, we find denial and fear, two painful stumbling blocks that come early in the process of adjustment. They can be overwhelming feelings and may make you reluctant to begin the climb. Denial. I can't believe this is happening to me. The good news is, we humans have a wonderful mechanism that allows us to feel only as much pain as we can handle without becoming overwhelmed. Pain that is too great is put into our denial bag and held there until we are strong enough to experience and learn from it. The bad news is, some of us experience so much denial that we are reluctant to attempt recovery, to climb the mountain. There are many reasons for this. Some are unable to access and identify what they are feeling and will have difficulty adjusting to change of any sort. They must learn that what we can feel, we can heal. Others have such a low self-concept that they don't believe they are capable of climbing the mountain. And some feel so much fear that they are afraid to climb the mountain. How about you? What feelings are underneath your denial? Nona talked hesitantly about taking the 10-week seminar and was finally able to describe her hesitation. "If I took the divorce seminar, it would mean that my marriage is over, and I don't want to accept that yet." Fear. I have lots of it. Have you ever been in a winter blizzard? The wind is blowing so hard that it howls. The snow is so thick that you can see only a few feet ahead of you. Unless you have shelter, it feels, and it can be, life-threatening. It's a very fearful experience. The fears you feel when you first separate are like being in a blizzard. Where do you hide? How do you find your way? You choose not to climb this mountain because, even here at the bottom, you feel overwhelmed. How can you find your way up when you believe the trail will become more blinding, threatening, fearful? You want to hide, find a lap to curl up in, and get away from the fearful storm. Mary called several times to sign up for the seminar, but each opening night came and went without her. As it turned out, she had been hiding in her empty apartment, venturing out only for an occasional trip to the grocery store when she ran out of food. She wanted to hide from the storm, from her fears. She was overwhelmed with fear. Coming to opening night of the divorce class was way too scary for her. How do you handle your fears? What do you do when you discover your fears have paralyzed you? Can you find the courage to face them so you can get ready to climb the mountain? Each fear you overcome will give you strength and courage to continue your journey through life. Adaptation. But it worked when I was a kid. Each of us has many healthy parts: inquisitiveness, creativity, nurturance, feelings of self-worth, appropriate anger. During our growing up years, our healthy parts were not always encouraged by family, school, religious community, or other influences, such as movies, books, and magazines. The result was often stress, trauma, lack of love, and other hindrances to health. People who are not able to meet their needs for nurturance, attention, and love will find ways to adapt, and not all adaptive behaviors are healthy. Examples of adaptive responses include being over-responsible for others, becoming a perfectionist, trying to always be a people-pleaser, or developing an urge to help. Unhealthy adaptive behaviors that are too well developed leave you out of balance, and you may try to restore your balance through a relationship with another person. For example, if I am over-responsible, I may look for an under-responsible love partner. If the
Sample complete. Ready to continue?